I am. No, but come out quickly. Yeah.
Bloody hell, it's warm in here.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
the sun's been. This is a virtual environment.
Okay, just a minute and we will start the recording. Okay, Sylvain?
Yep. Gonna sit with you for a bit.
Okay, so we'll start right now the presentation. Welcome everyone to the Sunken Blend stage and welcome to Dive Live. This is an event, an open platform to share ideas and inspire curiosity in all attendees. Also for you to enjoy presentations in a different format, in which you have different types of resources to present. In this case, 3D models, images, videos. So feel free to walk around, explore the stage. There are links to videos, there are images, and there are, of course, the 3D models of our visitors who are the main topic for today. So, for those of you that don't know, we are Sunken Blend. Sunken Blend, we're a 3D design studio that does augmented reality and virtual reality, and also hosts these free events as a way to share with the community and to learn, to meet new people, to connect. And we are here today with Sylvain Rochon. Sylvain is an international speaker, a futurist, author, scientist, engineer, and serial entrepreneur with a passion for progress. He is currently co-founder and vice president of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. My mission is to build an official embassy to facilitate open diplomatic conversations on Earth with visiting extraterrestrial civilization. So this is a topic that's really hot right now after the congressional hearings last week, I must say. But I'm guessing Sylvain will share with us more insights on this exciting topic, or at least for us, it's pretty exciting. So welcome, Sylvain, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Camilo. I am very excited to actually be here because I am a big gamer. I love 3D spaces and metaverse. And as a futurist, I know that these kind of spaces will probably dominate, because it gives us better ways to interact with each other. And as they develop, they're going to be more useful and people are going to be actually more used to them as well. Like I see some people having issues just walking around in this space because they're not used to, say, games. But we're getting into an era where all of this is going to become familiar very quickly. Now, on to the topic. My name is Sylvain Rochon, as Daniel said. I am one of the founders of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. And the reason why me and my original partner in 2020 decided to create the Alliance is because of the general feeling in the world that something is coming. And it's kind of palpable. We know we're not alone in the galaxy, in the universe. There's been a lot of signs pretty much everywhere in different countries about presence from outer space or powerful beings or gods, or there's different stories from antiquity even that indicate that powerful beings were once in contact with human beings. And even to the modern era, there's a lot of stories about people still being in contact with ETs or transdimensional creatures, or generally speaking, in the scientific parlance, non-human intelligence, just to kind of bring it all together. But it's all kind of in periphery, right? It's in documentaries, it's in discussions here and there that are still a little bit at the edges of real life in a way. A lot of people still just ignore this whole discussion because it doesn't pertain to our daily lives. But I feel, as a scientist and a futurist, I feel strongly that we have to be prepared for a contact with an ET civilization. And at least my personal justification is that it's impossible that we are alone in the universe, number one. And about 65% to 70% of the population in the world believe that we are not, that there are other intelligent civilizations out there. So, that's pretty common and generalized. But also that if you're familiar with the Fermi paradox, which was stated, I think it was in the 70s or the 60s, it was a famous scientist, Enrico Fermi, was thinking about whether we were alone. He said, okay, well, theoretically, because the universe is so big, there should be many civilizations out there, and in the Milky Way even. There should be abundance of them, but where are they? There's no direct signs or direct contact or things that we can measure using our telescopes and whatnot that is truly compelling evidence. So that's the Fermi paradox, and there's many, and there's no direct signs yet of contact. And my solution of the Fermi paradox, which is one of the common ones, is that they just don't want to contact us. We are not ready. And I pull inspiration from Gene Roddenberry on this topic. If you're familiar with Star Trek, the prime directive is like, if you meet a primitive civilization, you shouldn't tamper with them because they wouldn't be ready, and they would hurt themselves if they knew or had like a direct visceral contact with a more advanced civilizations. And of course, the show goes into some episodes where they show what could happen and so on. And there's many shows and TVs that speculate on this topic. And is even more recently, there's been a number of scientists that were asked the question, and they published an article on the topic and said, well, because the question was, in this case, what would be the highest danger if there were a direct contact with an ET civilization? And the outcome of that particular group of scientists was, well, we would hurt ourselves. We would be a danger to each other. And in part, that's because there are no rules for this eventuality, no agreed upon rules at the United Nations or otherwise. So if I can give you an example, ET arrives, decides, let's say, to land in France. The French government is ecstatic, right? It's they say, oh, welcome, here's our leader, have a conversation. The other countries in the world may not appreciate that, and there's no rules in saying how they would share information technology or anything like that with the rest of the world. It may cause serious problems and turmoil because we are still thinking as a divided humanity. We're still thinking that each country has their own rights to power and dominance and things like that. So these are still, in my view, primitive ways of thinking. And ET presumably should be more advanced, have gone through this, and their own civilizations have surpassed these limitations, mindsets. And they're looking at us, they say, well, we're going to wait until they're ready. So until there is a convention of some kind with the multiple nations of the Earth about how to behave when there is an official major contact occurrence. So they're waiting for us, and that's the speculation. They're waiting for us to get organized. So the alliance was created just for that. It was created to create a movement that would go up to the United Nations and create these rules. And there's already a set of rules called the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Affairs that was drafted in 1969 at the United Nations. And those sets of rules are universal around all the planets about when there's a diplomatic contact. And it's a legal set of rules around embassies, ambassadorial rights, and so on. And they can apply to just about anything and anyone. Therefore, they could, if we designate an ET envoy as a diplomat under the Vienna Convention, then they are covered by those rules. And there are rules that are accepted by 200 plus nations on how to behave and what to do and how it all works out. And it's all basically surrounding diplomatic missions, which are activities around an embassy. Okay, so that's the context. Now, who are we in more details? Well, we are a bunch of organizations and individuals and funds and scientists that want to achieve this goal that I just mentioned. So currently 24 organizations and increasing. Mind you, we've existed for a little bit over 2 years. So it's quite an achievement. Nearly 2 million individuals are associated with these organizations in support of our activities. And we've raised over $50 million US over a long period of time, not just those 2 years. This is a accumulated number of dollars from the different organizations that are pledging, let's say, funds for the completion of the project. So it's quite substantial, and we are growing those numbers quite quickly. Now, where does it come from? Because the alliance was built in 2020, but the ET Embassy project itself existed way before that. Actually, the project itself was started by the International Aurelian Movement in 1974. And that's where most of the funds actually come from, because they've been fundraising for this very mandate for nearly 50 years. So there's a lot of donations that were put, invested, and so on for a long time. And that's great. And they are one of the first organizations that joined the alliance because it's exactly the same project. Like, we wanted to make an ET Embassy project. They also had one of their mandates as building the embassy. So we decided to, well, okay, let's have you as a supporting member and look for other members that would have additional resources. Most organizations don't have this project for a long time. It's kind of new to them, so they're supporting from the ground up, right? Not having something, essential funds or whatnot prepared ahead of time. But they provide volunteers, they provide outreach, stages like this, for example, that's a blimp, and different mechanisms that will facilitate this particular project. And the project, when we talk about the project, there's actually 3 facets of it. One is the embassy proper, and you'll notice around the stage there's a bunch of images of the mock-up. This is a 3D mock-up. There are some videos about the embassy in the back. There's 3 videos. 2 of them are about the embassy itself, like a 3D walkthrough, for example. Another presentation about the architecture and the design choices of the embassy itself, the building. And of course, there is a video about the alliance proper and its mission, which is also available on the website. This aspect, which is the ET Embassy proper, is the physical component of it, I would say, because it is a physical embassy, because the Vienna Convention adheres to certain rules, and the rules talk about an extraterritorial piece of land with an embassy that is assigned to a nation. Like you'd have normally embassies for France or England in different countries, and they are on extraterritorial land that is given by the nation, the host nation, and then there's an embassy built on top, and that piece of land in that embassy belongs to the nation that it represents. So in this case, the goal is to satisfy the Vienna Convention and those rules that are important to avoid conflict. A nation of the earth has to give land, extraterritorial land, for an ET civilization, and the building that you see on the pictures would be built, and it would belong to the ET civilization as well. And that does mean a little bit of a changes with what we call an optional protocol of the Vienna Convention, which we suggest a text for that has to be ratified by the United Nations. But the piece of land and the embassy, by the rules of the Vienna Convention proper, need to be provided by a nation. So we don't need the whole world to agree to having an embassy. It can be any country that does it, and then automatically, if they state that this is an embassy for X nation, the rest of the world normally would accept that because those are the rules. That's how it works. So the work for the embassy has been going on for a while, and we have plans, architects, we have funds, we have a lot of volunteers working on getting this thing done. And if you look at the Alliance website, Alliance 4, the number 4, et.org, you'll see there is a timeline, and the ultimate date would be 2030 when we would open the embassy. Right now, we are discussing with different nations for the extraterritoriality element, and there's a lot of movement at the United Nations as well, and due to us and also other organizations that are working towards the same goal to get the discussions at the UN as well for the optional protocol to accept a nation being extraterrestrial, for example, as well as just generally talking about preparedness, about being ready to meet another civilization and having that discussion with the rest of countries. Now, the second aspect of that we support is the disclosure projects. Daniel mentioned it. In the U.S. right now, there's a bunch of congressional hearings that are occurring about disclosure. And these happen everywhere in the world, off and on, especially the last few years. Governments and militaries have been measuring and videotaping and gathering information about strange phenomena, some of which is undoubtedly not natural, as well as non-national, so not other nations of the earth. And the effort of getting that information out is still ongoing. And that's important because we've had signs of extraterrestrial presence on Earth for thousands of years. So it's not a new thing. Some cultures, well, most cultures have stories of beings that came from the sky and that landed. They did stuff, like created life in some cases, interacted with humans in different ways, taught, and so on. So it's not a new thing. We got crop circles, you got sightings, we got testimonials like monuments. The Giza pyramids. We got pyramids also in China. We got the Nazca lines. A bunch of evidence that we are not present. So this is this disclosure aspect. So we encourage as much information to come out as possible. And the third element is the element of love. This sounds strange since we're talking mostly about diplomacy with the alliance, but love is extremely important. Like I mentioned about the first contact earlier, and the fact that we may fight each other if the rules are not established correctly, and so on. And well, that's all about love. Like what how do we respect each other? How do we change our mindsets from a nationalistic mindset to a universal mindset, being accepting of differences with each other on Earth, and differences from beyond. And our advanced ET friends that are observing, or NHI, they're waiting for us to be in a position that we won't harm each other, and that we won't attempt to harm them because we're just not ready. So a lot of the work that the organizations that support us do is in fact in that category. A lot of it is about changing how we think of the world and the universe, and think of each other as brothers and sisters, all of them, like any sentient creature, animals, plants, ETs, kind of thinking of it in a different way. It's the same with artificial intelligence. So that's really important. If we can't have a different mindset, if we can't be with each other without prejudice and see differences as positives, not as something to be feared, then we increase the likelihood that ET will be willing to make contact and say, hey, here we are, we're following your rules, we are appearing in your embassy, even though we could appear everywhere at once probably. We respect you. When you're ready, you seem to be ready, let's start a conversation. So we believe that this is the approach, and it's really important that we go and respect the process of humanity and how we are. So that is the really important aspect of what we're doing. The Alliance itself doesn't tackle this, because the organization itself is focused on the ET embassy itself, but we love to associate it with organizations that deal with the disclosure and love aspect, because those are key components of us actually having the contact occur. So that's important. And if you're interested in supporting the cause of the Alliance, well, you can register on our newsletter. We have a membership program coming up very soon. You can volunteer. And also we have a conference November 29th, 2023, where we're going to reveal new information about how this is all going, the disclosure that's going on. There's exciting projects on disclosure that are in play, and that are revolutionary, really. And also the love aspect, like what can we do to improve ourselves and to become more accepting. So this is all going to be covered at the conference in November. And this is the conference link. And the Alliance link, I was showing it to you a bit earlier, just to be sure, like it's under the logo right here. You can always flip through this, and it's also located in other places on the stage, I think. But the conference is available on Portal to Ascension. You're familiar with that site, and we're going to expose that. So I think I'm mostly out of time, Dan, that Dan gave me. But if there are questions from the floor, I think we may have time for one or two quick questions. Otherwise, I think this is going to be recorded, and it'll be posted. Yeah. All right, Dan.